How you doing, guys? Michael Simon here, coming to you live from Fiji. If you're tuning in live, welcome along. Let us know in the chat where you're coming from. If you're getting the replay of this, maybe on our YouTube channel or another way, let us know that you're getting the replay and let us know where you're coming in from. I've been excited about this event all week since I've known that we're having this champion gentleman on this afternoon. And I guess I'm a good authority, I think, to be saying that, because I'm lucky enough. I'm one of those lucky individuals that's been able to be directly coached and mentored by this guy for, I guess, over a decade now, Rick. It sounds crazy, right, if I say it like that. But I've known him for over 10 years. I first met him as a business coach and facilitator. What this guy doesn't know about business is not worth knowing. He knows the ins and outs of everything. He has coached and facilitated companies, large and small, for many, many years. I believe in his third decade of coaching now, which is an impressive rap sheet. The industry that we're all involved in, he's been involved in for a long time. He's a diamond with our company, and he's produced many, many, many leaders along the way. He's someone who I would class as a leader builder. He creates and builds leaders. And so our Level Up events, we run these obviously every Sunday or Saturday, depending on where you are in the world. And, you know, it's all about growing ourselves and building ourselves and becoming who we need to become in terms of a person to achieve what we want to achieve in our lives. And as I said, I've been lucky enough to be coached and mentored by this guy for over 10 years. And I thought it was definitely worth time that I open it up, I guess, a bit more and allow some of you other friends and business partners of ours to be able to plug into this guy and, as I say, really learn from one of the best. So without wasting any more of your valuable time on a weekend, I'm going to pass the call directly over to Mr. Rick Kearney. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Good morning here in Adelaide, and I think it's a little bit later in the day for some and earlier for others. Hi, Michael and everybody. Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it ever gets easy hearing some of those things about yourself, but I'll continue to work on it. So I'm very grateful that you shared those nice words, Michael. I appreciate it. Along the way, one of the blessings in life is the people you meet, I think, isn't it? And people come into your life for a short time, a long time, as often is said, for a season or for a lifetime. And so Michael and Rebecca Simon are one of those amazing couples, people who has just been a joy, who have, I guess, had impact on lives, on our lives. And often it's just the little things along the way. I find myself, and not to make this all just about you, Michael, particularly, but it's something that I share in terms of leadership development and training quite often, and something I got from you, which comes up very, very consistently. And I'm not sure, I hadn't heard it until you said it. And that is, how you do anything is how you do everything. It's a saying that I most likely credit to you whenever I say it, and I use, I think, probably 4 or 5 times a week on a consistent basis. And so it's marvellous how little things can have a dramatic impact over massive time in life. So appreciate you inviting me along to share. Lovely to see all these familiar faces and some new ones as well. Awesome to see you guys. Lovely to see you on. It's fantastic. I'm not sitting in a helicopter, but I love the view of our beautiful city of Adelaide. And we do have a lovely sunshine out here today too. So thanks for making some time. I'll do my utmost. My goal is to be able to add some value to your investment of time to be here. And so thank you for doing that. So Michael, I'm not sure whether you've set it up, but I've got some slides I will share along the way in and out. So if you could just give me permission to be able to share those, that would be awesome. And if that's okay, we might just jump right into it. The topic today talks about this thing called success. And I guess one of the things I would urge you to reflect on as we start out, that success is a very, very subjective thing, in my view. It's something that is extremely personal, and yet And yet I think society gives us some expectations around what success must look like. And so as I share some of these thoughts today, I challenge you to don't just allow society's beliefs and values and, you know, whatever the community out there expects you to achieve in terms of success. Don't let that be your guide. I would urge you to look inward and look at your own life. Challenge some of the things. I know Chelsea shared some great stuff last week around thinking and beliefs and values and barriers and lots of wonderful things. A lot of these things are programmed into us through our communities, our families, and society in general. And so make sure you challenge those things that you're doing and your definition of success. If you don't have your own written down definition of success, then I suggest you're only following along on maybe what society is expecting success to look like for you. Yes, of course, there will be some common things, won't there? There'll be many common things that most human beings see as being successful. Excuse me, frog in the throat early in the call. One of the things I would give you then, just for the sake of what it may help you in your thought process, is my definition of success. You can have paragraphs, pages to describe success. But for me, it's really one word, and that's happiness. It's a pretty simple word. But of course, then the question becomes, what are the things, the ingredients to happiness? What are the things we need to create? So why do we talk about this thing in terms of success? Because I guess primarily we're here as business partners. We're here to achieve things in the business world. But I hope for you that achieving things in the business world are simply to be able to get to this thing called success. Our businesses are a vehicle to lead to success in our lives. So for me, happiness has a few core elements in it. I'll leave that for you to decide if that's your definition, but what is it? If you don't yet have it clear for yourself, not what someone else expects of you, but if you don't have it yet clear for yourself, I would urge you go on that journey before you go any further. Make sure you dig into that and define it, write it down so you know exactly. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to share my screen now. Thanks, Michael. That's all go. And hopefully you can see that. As I've mentioned, your personal definition of success. Is that coming through okay? Cool. Lovely. Here's a book I've used as reference point. Now, I don't necessarily recommend this book as such, but it's a nice foundation, I thought, in terms of what might be considered success. Richard St. John wrote a book called What is Success? And it's a result of hundreds and hundreds of interviews with successful people to be able to look to dilute if there are common threads of success. So as you're on the journey to success, maybe these will be highly important traits to you, maybe not. Again, it's subjective, it's up to you whether these things are highly valuable. But I want to go through these this morning just to be able to stimulate some thought for you. Hopefully, as we talk about some of these things, please make notes, scribble down something that might pop into your mind as a result of my chatting away and sharing. And if you do, trap it as such. There may be some things on that you know that are not even anywhere close to being on here that are really important to you. So the first one, passion. So if you think about it in professional terms, passion is certainly an attractive thing in life. But what about success in personal terms, in your personal life, in relationships, business relationships, personal relationships? Is passion. So I grabbed a few definitions along the way here, and the definitions that I found may not be the definitive ones, but here's one that I thought was really great. Strong and barely controllable emotion. Whoa, what about powerful words? Barely controllable. Now, the outcome being a person, if you like, of impetuous passion. So my question then to you is, is that something that's part of your world? Is there something that you would define living a passionate life as being part of success? If it's not every moment of every day, is it something that needs to be part of your life on a regular basis? Does it need to be there every day? Is it something that you would be happy with having a really exciting, emotional, passionate day once a week? Again, you decide. Something that I would challenge you with now is to, if you believe this is important in terms of success, I want you to write down now, I want you to pick 3 things. Say 3 things that in your life, the traits that you have that demonstrate passion. What are 3 things that demonstrate that you live with some passion at some point in your life, that people notice the passion? And as you think about that, I can share some of my thoughts. Obviously, the words we use. I know Mr. Simon, Michael will know very well that as a saying I developed quite young in my life because I wanted to demonstrate some passion, and it shows a few other things. But when someone asks me how I am, more often than not, I say I'm dangerous. Now, I'm known as Dangerous Rick in some circles, and I did that because I want to be different. I want to demonstrate that I'm not just going through life on remote control, on automatic pilot. It's a verbal manifestation, I believe, of having some passion and energy for this thing we call life. So it can be your physiology. There are people who wave their arms around, they move quickly, they walk with pace and intent. So it may be the way you walk and move. It may be the way your eyes gleam and intensely look and monitor what you're engaged with in that moment. It's very difficult to show passion sort of when you're lounging around on the couch and sitting back. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a time for that, isn't it? So if you wish to have passion in your life, if that's part of success for you, define what the activities are. What's the way that shows up, and make sure you put it into your life on a consistent basis. Find a way to put it in there. Create the ritual, if you like, and create the habit. I'll touch on some habits later in the day as we go. So the second point out of the 8 to be great. So work in its own right as a word doesn't mean a lot, but there's lots of different meanings attached to the word work. And so one I found here is to perform and carry through a task requiring sustained effort or continuous repeated operation. So you can see there's some keys that come through. I would call this, in my languaging, meaningful endeavor. I changed my meaning and my belief system around work to call it meaningful endeavor along the way. Again, you decide whether it's the word work, but the intent here is to have something that I believe, let's call it, has a purpose. This would be where your purpose kicks in. If you don't have something, it's a deeper purpose. If work is just for work's sake, in my view, that's not enough to lead to happiness, which of course for me is success. And so it has to be more meaningful than that. So the couple of key words there: continuous, repeated, sustained. So it's not something that disappears. It's not something that's finished completely. Now, at my stage of life, well into my 60s, it's not as high a value, it's not as high as an importance as it has been along the way. And I guess that's, for me, is I'm happy with that. It still leads to happiness because it's not the driver. But there was a time in my life when this was a huge, huge component of it. And rightly so. As we suggested at the beginning, there are different seasons of our lives and different people for different seasons and different reasons. So work slash focus slash a gone blank. I just said it a moment ago and it's gone completely out of my head because I've moved to screen too quickly onto focus. But having a passion, a purpose, that deeper purpose is what I was trying to allude to along the way. So focus, point 3 in 8 to be great, a focus. And so you can see there the definition I've found and discovered, which fits for me. And there are others you can bring to this, but to cause to be concentrated, to cause to be concentrated. So it leads to this concentration. and then the attention that it on the most urgent of problems. Now, to use the word problems, which is not necessarily the most appropriate word, but you can call that your most urgent project. You can call that anything you like, activity, that goal of the moment, if you like. But focus is a critical element. I know specifically in this business and in most businesses that I've coached over the last 20 odd 30 years, is that this focus has to be applied with blowtorch consistency and activity for an extended, for a concentrated period of time. And generally in business, a 90-day focus is a long period to sustain something so concentrated and that attention, but it does require a snapshot like that. Can you remain blowtorch focused forever? In my opinion, that's extremely difficult, and it's a rare human being. I've met some that can do it, but for me, that's a breakdown. I can't do it forever. So it needs to have some other balance on it as well. So your focus may go from some specific goals to another goal of recharge and relaxing. But I guess that's a topic for another time as well. But in terms of success, there must be periods of focus. What that leads to, I put in that second definition you can see down the bottom. So it leads to this clear perception and clear understanding. When you have an intense focus, often it's at the exclusion of all the noise. And I know I've heard Michael say along the way too, we need to stay in our lane. And it's the same when you are focused, you do that. You don't let things interrupt you. We're living in times across the whole globe at this point in time, aren't we? Where it's very, very simple for us to lose focus and look at some things on the big scheme of things that are completely out of our control. And so this brings you back to clarity and brings you back to focus on the outcome that's required of the moment. Point 4 in 8 to be great, something called push. It's an interesting word, isn't it? I guess one of our value systems were given to us we were growing up, or I certainly was, don't be pushy. And I know for many of you ladies, and I know my amazing wife Janine has been accused occasionally of being pushy. I know my daughter has been accused of being pushy, which is in a different context totally. I would take it as a compliment, because to press upon or against a thing with force in order to cause it to move, what a wonderful definition. So if you think about this in terms of your goals, or if you think about this in terms of your journey to happiness, as you move towards that definition, whatever it is for you, to have some energy that pushes and leans on it, causes it to become closer, move us towards it. I guess if we simplify this is just simply action, isn't it? If we want to use another word for it, it's about converting something into action. It's one of the major things I focus on when looking at knowledge and learning. And I give that to you now as an aside with what we're doing today. Learning all these wonderful theories and principles are just brilliant. They're a wonderful thing. But unless it converts to action, if it's personal development for you, unless this changes something in you for the better, then it's been a waste of time. It must move towards an action or a change or an evolution or a development. If you do a year's worth of learning and development and nothing has developed or grown in you or changed, I suggest you need to stop. Don't learn anymore, but focus on implementing as such. So push is about implementation. Very, very, very powerful part of success. If you think in terms, again, not just in business terms, but personal success, making things happen is also great. So, number 5 in 8 to be great, ideas. Interesting, isn't it, to have something as simple as ideas be part of success? So ideas, not in a fanciful way, but as such, but as you can read there, an idea is usually generated with intent. We often stop and think about it. I would also suggest to you that there's an intuitive element as we engage our brains, keep talking to our subconscious, as we practice our thinking, the way we think. often it can be quite intuitive and can happen without intent. So it can be created unintentionally as well. So the suggestion here is listen to those ideas, listen to what your thinking's doing. Think about your thinking. So brainstorming is a great way to go in a positive, obvious sense. So what these do as well, these ideas, they help us to formulate exactly what we were talking about at the start. What's your definition of success? Without ideas and thoughts, it's not going to happen. So you have to be actively engaged in this thought process, your creation of ideas, to help define this thing called success, as you do for many other ways. So define the process. We talk about doing peaks in this business. We talk about doing follow-ups. We talk about sending digital information. So engage in ideas around that. Don't reinvent the wheel, but have ideas, have thoughts, use your thought process, use the brain that we're given. And so they help provide that wonderful, broad, overarching scope and outline for what we're trying to do and achieve. I think I've touched on this one pretty clearly. Number 6 in 8 to be great, make or become better. So make things better. So make things better in your sphere of influence, in your circle, and or whichever is appropriate for you in your timing on the journey, become better. So I just spent some time talking about implementing and getting better, improving. This is the next step of that. It must show up somewhere as such. Now, what areas do you need to become better in? I'll leave that for you to decide. Listen to the ideas. Listen, we all know ourselves internally. We know our weaknesses. We know our strengths. We know the areas that need some focus. So don't block those, but then implement something to work on them. So something specific, what's happened. In terms of improving external world, there's a lot of choice in here how far you will go. There are some people who want to, for example, be politicians. They want to lead countries and they want to lead nations. They might be members of the United Nations. They want to impact on a global scale. That's wonderful. We need people to do that. You don't have to do that, but you can. So make sure you make the choice about what you are going to influence externally. I would suggest as you look at this amazing business that we're in, this wonderful vehicle called Kearney, we have a massive goal. Our mission is about improving effectively, offering hope to someone. Hope for what? Hope for improvement, I would suggest, is the outcome. So to make a difference in Kearney, if that's part of success for you, then do it. Set it as a standard. Set a goal to influence externally. I can guarantee you that's how you will attract other people. If it's just about you growing, that's wonderful, but you also need to be able to be influencing externally. How far you go with that, I'll let you decide. Point 7. How are we going for time here? Oh yes, I think we're hanging in there okay. Serve. Fits quite neatly with some of the things we've already spoke about. So perform duties or services for another person or an organisation. This one, I think I relate this back to what Tony Robbins taught me and Janine and I, as many of us many years ago, about contribution, a critical human need to be able to give to others and serve. It's the part here, I would suggest, if you're looking at happiness, if that's your definition of success, if part of happiness or all of it is linked with your success, I would suggest to you this is critical. This is something that you must do. Again, our mission in Kearney is so based in this, it's crazy. It's just wonderful. I think that's why one of the reasons I connect with it so much and I believe in it so much is because it helps me find happiness. I often reflect on the fact little things sometimes done for other people can lead to the happiest moments in our lives. If you haven't experienced that, and I'm sure you all have, because you wouldn't be here otherwise, but find ways to do that. And teach it. Teach the importance of it to other human beings as well. Pass it on. So as I move to number 8, in the 8 to be great, persist. Persistence, of course, a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's absolutely I guess in many terms it's a no-brainer, isn't it? The suggestion that we can give up, stop, either long, is certainly not one that leads to most definitions of success. If I relate this back even to that thing called happiness, persist in seeking and finding those elements that make happiness and create happiness. Persist in finding your definition of success if it's not clear to you. Persist in finding ways to help other people. Persist in your personal skill set, how you apply your learnings. Persist in who you become and how you grow. Persist in how you challenge yourself. I've watched my amazing wife in the last few months dive into social media head first. It's not her natural trait. She is just probably the last person you might expect to engage in the digital world per se, not because of her age, but because of her natural skill set. And so I've seen her persisting through many challenging moments when it would be easy to say, oh, this is all too hard, I give up, because there are lots of things to learn. And especially when it's not your natural strength. So often persist through things that aren't your natural strength. If you're not good at something, but it's critical to your definition of success, you must persist through it, because you can improve, you can get better, no matter what. I'm just going to stop my sharing as I look to conclude. As I suggested at the start, lots of 8 different points there that may or may not be relevant for you as such. But as we've gone through, hopefully it's stimulated some thoughts. I want to conclude, just wind this up and bring it together to suggest, how do these habits, if you like, show up? You can call them traits. You can call them behaviors that you have in your life now every day. And so I would just urge you to reflect for a moment as I ask this rhetorical question: how do they show up each day? What's the thing? What do we call it? What do we need to create? And I mentioned it earlier in the call, and I'm giving you some time to process through that, because I want your brain to function a little bit. Remember, thinking, ideas, get good at creating ideas. It's our habits, isn't it? It's just as simple as the habits that we have every day of the week, every second of the day. John C. Maxwell, at one of the presentations in a trip to the United States, I can't remember which conference it was at, when we were very fortunate to hear him present live, he talked about living an intentional life. And the best way to live an intentional life is to create habits intentionally. Don't allow them to evolve on automatic pilot. For example, success, as where we started, can be driven by what society expects success to be for you. That can be a habit of allowing the community, the society, decide what's important to us. I have so much respect for Michael and Rebecca as they had a vision very early in their lives. When very early in our meeting, we discovered that they had the dream to go and live on an island in Fiji, and especially for their girls, to be able to give them an upbringing that was unique, that was special, that stretched outside of the norm. You know, when you think about in terms of society says, is that success? Well, living on an island might be, but, you know, home educating your daughters, there's lots of things there that are stepping aside from the norm that you might believe to be society's expectation of success. But I look at what Michael and Rebecca have done and the life they're creating and the unique experiences and the human beings that their daughters are turning into. You know, what an amazing thing to teach stepping outside of what society normally expects or believes is possible. So I'm sure Michael and Rebecca have had many, many people saying, you're stupid, you're ridiculous, that's impossible, no one can do that. How could you? And yet rose above it because it was important to them. So I think we're all blessed with a glowing example to be able to do that. I would just reflect on Janine and my life. You know, we're in our 60s and we're at a wonderful stage of our lives where we have this beautiful business. But, you know, we live in a little small unit down near the beach. Janine's always wanted to be near the beach. We don't have a luxurious, you know, mansion that we live in. And I can suggest we've never been happier, because it's our definition of success where we want to be. It's not just material things. We have a lifestyle that's enviable. And for many of the people that have watched us along the last decade or two, I'm looking this way because she's here with me. Many of people have gone, what are you doing in that crazy little home business? But it's led to, you know, our personal growth in being able to overcome that, allow people to think what they like, because their definition of success is not ours. So my original point is, decide what your definition of success, what it looks like. Write it down, get clear on it now. But then above all, put into place the habits that will lead to it. Now, often the habits will be simple things like not doing some things. Habits, I think, as Chelsea shared last week in your wonderful training, sometimes it's about what you can stop doing as well that can lead to the creation of great habits. Stop listening to what other people are saying is success for you. Stop listening to other people and saying, you can't do that. This is what you should be doing. Oh, but what about this? But what about that? So I hope I've given you plenty of food for thought along the way today, because that's what it's intended to be. I hope it helps you define clearly what success means for you. And more than anything, I hope you can go on that journey and enjoy every moment of that journey, because success is not a destination for me. It's the journey. And that's every single moment along the way. So thank you very much, Michael, for
thank you, Mr.
inviting me
Kearney.
along. And must say very quickly, Jody Garner, good to see you on here from Kakadu, and a little jealous, I must say. Awesome, you guys.
Very jealous. One of my
Hope you
favourite
did
spots
really
on the
well.
planet, Kakadu.
Nice
Such a
stuff.
beautiful place.
Thanks, Michael. All the best, everybody.
Not a problem. Thank you, Rick. One thing, I had this crazy, just like mind-blowing, like realization in that, and I've been on this journey, this success journey, this personal development journey for about 17, 18 years now, and I have never had this realization before. But you said, if work is for work's sake, it doesn't lead to success. Now,
Yeah.
you know, I find success in my experience and the people who I know closely, success doesn't come without some hard work in all of those areas. You mentioned about creating success habits. If they were easy, everyone would be successful. Those habits, you know, the easy habits are the bad habits. The easy habits are the bad habits. You know,
Absolutely.
Smashing junk food's an easy habit. It's bad. It's these success habits that are tough. Now, the other frustration, and you know, you've got it here about, you know, having periods of focus, and then action needs to be taken, and learnings need to be implemented. Now, my frustration in I guess my success journey, arriving at where my definition of success, as you said, it's probably outside of the box of most, but having periods of focus in traditional business, it doesn't really work. In my building and construction space, if I had periods of focus, I would come home missing fingers. You know, if I had periods of focus, I'd have 56 families that didn't get paid that month. I had to be focused the whole time. And as you said, that leads to burnout. So if we're working for work's sake, and if we're trying to stay focused all day, every day, is that going to be sustainable? Are we going to create success? Are we going to be able to do that long term? But then if we have these realizations and we start personally developing, can't even speak, I should probably work on that part of my life. But if we start getting these, if we start upskilling, if we start getting more things at our disposal, more tools, if we don't have somewhere to implement them, then what are they worth? You know,
Absolutely.
People say knowledge is power, but implemented knowledge is the power, right? So,
Beautiful.
You know, the thing that I love about this business is, and I've said this many times around our human needs, but when I look at what you've just showed us there with the those 8 to be great steps, to find one vehicle or one activity where you can support and embrace every single one of those steps through what we do, whether it's a few hours a week or whether it's a few hours a day that you're doing in this, it can move you towards whatever your definition of success is. And, you know, we see it in this business. For some people, that's, you know, Lambos and private jets and Rolexes and being that social media person. For other people, it's just disappearing off the grid into the woods and hugging a tree, and anywhere in between. And to have one vehicle that can do that and can do that for all of us and move us either part-time or full-time towards whatever success means for us, man, I think that's a diamond in the rough.
I don't think there's any other vehicle around, Michael. It's such a huge point. I think I knew what success was for me fairly early in life. And I believe that's what drew me to this industry, because I have not found any other way of being able to put everything in the mix that leads to success for me.
Yeah.
And I'm yet to find it. I can't see it out there. You know, I've had great jobs and had good work that's meaningful, but there was always something that wasn't quite there. And so I absolutely endorse that. It's such a unique blessing in Kearney that we have, you know, things like I think I take it for granted sometimes too, but caring hands as just something that sits there that we can apply incredible passion to and what it achieves. That's rare. I mean, Where do people find that most days? Look, there are some great organisations out there in traditional business that do some local charity work, etc. It's, you know, there's people that are working at it, but we've got the whole package. I can't believe
with the caring hands. You guys know as well as me, when you see people engage with that, they change forever. Now, those people outside of our culture and our environment, they would not normally proactively go out and get themselves involved in something like Caring Hands. You know, there's many good charities and you know, projects to be a part of all around the world, but you know, to get off your bum and go out and get involved would be a really rare thing. But because of who we are and our environment and our culture, you know, the encouragement that's there, and then visually seeing others change because of it, you know, I've got to admit, Caring Hands wasn't a big driver for me to get involved in this company, but Caring Hands is 100% a big driver that gets me up every day and keeps me up late at night to be a part of this company still and be active. And so it's an amazing, as we say, hybrid model, a flexible model that really encourages us to become the best person we can become in our own version of success in that journey to our own version of success.
And it's wonderful. It's such a big scale too. You know, that definition of success, if it's small, large, small financially, large financially, lifestyle small, lifestyle large, there's such a scope that is possible with what we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Mr. Kearney. Thank you so much for coming on. I guess everybody now can realize why I was so excited about getting Rick on to share some stuff. He is the master. He is the maestro. You know, I often say when I'm talking to people about Rick, it sounds bad when you say talking about Rick, but I often say things like, he's taught me everything I know, but he hasn't taught me everything he knows. It's like he's just this guy who, I want the matrix to exist so I can just plug a USB into his head, download it, and then plug it into mine and just grab that years of knowledge and experience. And he's a business and a personal development encyclopedia. And I'm so glad that you guys got to hear a bit of that today. And I am 100% certain as soon as we upload the recording of this, there'll be people rewatching it and people getting friends on and team members and so forth. So thanks so much, Mr. Kearney, for pouring that knowledge and experience into us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me along.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Take care. Good to see you guys.
Thank you. See ya.
Have an awesome week.
You too.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.